only nines, very, very talented. And today we have a guest that is going to be talking about GCSEs and his journey through the in the community. He's an educator and he's pretty much an advocate for children taking GCSEs early. Good afternoon. Can you hear me? Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Can you hear me? I think we're having a few problems. Well, I'll carry on a little bit. I was saying that this young girl, age 5, she received a A star back in 2010. Her name was Desri Ali. She was
Hello.
from Savak. Good afternoon. Good afternoon.
Hashima,
Good afternoon.
good afternoon.
Good afternoon. So we have our guest on air now. His name is Astehmari Batekun. And I would like Astehmari to introduce himself to the audience.
Well, thanks for having me on the show. I'm Astehmari Batekun. I'm a cultural arts teacher, the principal for Schools of Unified Learning, and a trustee for Abundant Centres UK Development Trust, which is a learner cooperative.
All right. And what is it that you are doing in the community?
Okay, well, for many years, I've done work in the area of cross-curricular learning, of integrated learning. We've developed a pedagogy, a method of teaching called Unified Knowledge, or Ethiopian, which is an Africa-centered, nature-centered, human-centered approach to learning. And essentially, it uses cultural arts to teach core ideas of math and science, along with a whole range of life skills and other subjects.
All right. Could you explain what are cultural arts for those that might not familiar with the term?
Well, art is relating to creativity, and culture is related to patterns of growth and ways of being. So cultural arts are the creative arts that people use as part of their process of living and forming themselves into more refined beings.
Okay.
So that's cultural arts is like this. Practically, things like dance, things like musical expressions, writing, language, attire, things like this.
All right.
These things sit into a cultural arts space.
All right. Are you familiar of children as young as 5, but actually very early taking GCSEs exams, especially in maths?
Well, I have heard of this. And generally when I hear about it, I hear of children who are considered exceptionally talented doing that. But it's interesting. One of the reasons I was very keen to come on the show is because we've developed a program whereby not simply the ones classed as exceptional, but a program that brings out the exceptional in all children, so that essentially all children from an early age can approach that subject. So we have a way, because we teach math in a creative way, children in their primary ages can take on advanced ideas.
So
would you say a full course of learning so that children in their primary school age can take the GCSE, can have the competence of that, which is the important part, to have the consciousness and competence of those standards and be able to pass a test in it.
All right.
If the families want to do that.
So would you say that the hashtag gifted and talented should be put on aside when we want to encourage all children into mathematics and understanding the principles?
In a way, yes, because most people, I think everyone thinks their children are talented, especially when they're young. Everyone would think their child is talented. But then you mentioned earlier on some children who are famous, some young people who are famous because they've taken their exams early. Many parents might feel, okay, they are the exception to the rule.
Yeah.
But with a different way of approaching it, this would be the norm. In China, for example, who are, this is a country, a nation state that is known for its relationship to math and science. And their policy is to make sure that no one fails. It's not that everyone is exceptionally good at math. It's just that they don't let people fall out. And they rally around young people and the teaching and the learning communities to ensure that everyone comes up to a standard.
So what is the West or where we live doing different? Why is it that people feel so kind of afraid and apprehensive when it comes to mathematics?
There's a history for this here, and essentially it comes down to a kind of class cultural point of view that Europe has, which has divided mathematics from other subjects, other life subjects, other sciences, from science and from other subjects. It's also taken out some things that I would say are the metaphysics that mathematics leads to. The standard system of maths in Europe has extracted a lot of things that put mathematics in a proper context, in a way that people can digest it in a better way. And in a place like China and other places where they keep those things in place, it's easier to take on the learning. It's easier for the community to have a better relationship to the subject.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I think also that mathematics is, I'm using the word mathematics, but you've asked me to speak about it in this way. But that word is an extraction. Really, mathematics is the study and application of patterns. So anything to do with patterns, studying them, applying them, is a kind of math. So that can relate to anything to do from movement, from walking, from language. Numerous things are basically pattern-type activities or developed around pattern ideas, and therefore are a kind of math. So, yeah.
All right, interesting, because I also, when I don't consider myself a mathematician, but what I teach, and when I look at children that really struggle at maths, are always the ones that struggle to see patterns in numbers, also the ones that struggle to memorize things as well, either through ear or like visually as well. And I always would wonder, what can teachers do to help students with spotting the patterns? Because we're also to say that it doesn't only apply to mathematics. Also, outside of mathematics, you find children that find difficult to make patterns, to find the patterns of behavior that are acceptable within society as well. Would you say that is related as well, that you can project it onto other contexts in life?
Definitely. As I say, the fundamental idea is pattern recognition and pattern working, and the study and application of patterns. Where I think the standard system of math is challenged here, and it challenges people, is because people think of mathematics as purely arithmetic or fundamentally arithmetic, and so they think it's fundamentally about number, and obviously number is part of that. However, even if you think it's about number, most people don't even have a good definition or working way with number. Children will go through schooling and not be told what number is, to be given a classic, well-rooted definition of number. So these are the problems. If you think that mathematics is arithmetic, so you're going to be working with number, adding, taking away, multiplying, dividing, a basic arithmetic.
But that's
you
what
don't know what a number is.
We've been sold that idea, though, isn't
beginning.
it? We've been sold that idea that we measure how intelligent people are going, because you have to sit a text. So if you get good grades, so that equals, or is equivalent to someone that is intelligent or has some level of aptitude. So how can we reverse that? And if it's reversible, because many young people are actually trapped, and we are also trapped into that numbers game of seeing as, okay, you get this grade, you can do this as well, because it determines your future as well. Depending on your grades, you can choose what university you want to go to, and also what type of career you want to take, isn't it? So I find it very, very old, like final, that people are actually basically judged based on their ability to score an either A or A star. But now that has changed, even because now the system of scoring is now goes from 9 to 1 or something like that.
That's right.
So it's just very depressing for young people, don't you think? Because I believe, as you said, that embedding the artistic expression, cultural expression is being ignored within the national curriculum. One of the things that is non-existent within public schools is music. music, children in public school and state schools are not, introduced to playing instrument early enough. What do you think?
I agree. And for me, as I was saying earlier, pattern can sit with music. It does sit with music. So music is a kind of mathematical expression. And there's no doubt about that. People who have explored the relationship are clear about it. And if children can be introduced to that from an early age, then they will have a better relationship to the various parts of mathematics. If they can see that their music, their dance, and other kinds of cultural artistic expression are also a kind of math.
Do you think that schools are open to that idea? Hello?
Fundamentally, no.
No, okay.
Fundamentally, no. I mean, there are schools that are open to the idea. There are teachers that are open to the idea. But as a system, no, it's not open to the idea. I see you're thinking through as a teacher. You're a teacher that's worked in standard system schools, so you're trying to resolve it. How does it resolve in a standard system? For me, the answer to this is not rooted there. It's rooted into family-directed learning. It's rooted into the family owning the learning process and then using the school as a service provider. And if the service is not right, then you move from that or you develop a better service.
So what is family? Sorry to
cooperatives.
Sorry to cut you, but what is family learning-led learning? What is that? How does that work?
Say that again?
What is family-led learning?
Okay, family-directed learning. Family-directed learning is simply where the family directs the learning process.
Okay.
They take it. You take the parent as the primary educator certainly for young children. Everyone would know that the parents are the first educators for a young child. But that idea should be endorsed and encouraged and almost made professional. Professional respect to the parent as a primary educator. Support should be given to the family to better manage the learning experience of their children.
All right.
As to manage it like a school manages the learning process.
Yep.
Families can do that. So what we've done in Abundance Centres UK Development Trust is form a model of learner cooperatives so that groups of parents can form cooperatives, and then as cooperatives they can attract resources to themselves in a better way. They can work with better structured pedagogies, that is approaches to learning, so that they can do the things they want to do with their families' education with sovereignty, with self-empowerment. Now, the way that impacts to the school is that if, for example, your child is in a standard system school, but you're also part of a learner cooperative, then your school should be informed by that. They will realize your children are doing better. You'll be able to inform the teachers about better ways to work and have, if you choose it, have an option to take your child out of a standard system schooling.
Okay, all right. So you are suggesting that parents should be part of a community directed learning, but at the same time show schools that there are some benefits and positive results of working together and having a community of parents that are actively engaged in the children's learning.
Well, showing the school, to be honest, I have spent a lot of time in compiling research. Prior to doing this work with schools of unified learning and abundance centres, I've produced several research reports on the black community, on black child reports from 1996 to 2000. And so I know the level of poor experience that we're having statistically, like everybody else knows it practically. I know it practically and statistically. So I'm not encouraging communities to try and kind of inspire the schools to do better.
Okay.
I'm not. The answer to me is to hold within the community a kind of ownership of the whole education experience. And there are many ways to do that. And a key part of it is forming cooperatives. Cooperatives of parents, cooperatives of teachers who have kind of like-mindedness, so that they can then, as a cooperative, impact on their schools or on their local areas. Cooperatives. Then with the cooperative, if the cooperative adopts a particular approach to learning, then the whole system, the whole network of that cooperative has power for that.
All right. And what type of parents or practitioners are actually part of your cooperatives across London?
All kinds of parents. It's quite diverse now. Pedagogy is an African-centered pedagogy, so we have a strong appeal in the interest of people of African heritage to explore it, to know it, to use it. There's a special benefit for that. But I myself and my colleagues, we work in standard system schools. We go into schools with a whole range of different people in the school, all cultures in the school, and always they are benefiting from the experience in a deep way. Always children are doing things that their teachers didn't expect them to do. They say that, the teachers always say that. They're always impressed by the levels that we're able to empower the children's learning. And that goes across all cultures that we work with in a standard school. So the cooperatives we work with, there's a lot of African community parents inside of that. And some of our new member trusts are going into a broader diversity still.
All right. And are they parents that are sending the children to state school mainly, or is a group of people that are homeschooled or people that are doing other initiatives?
Two of the main cooperatives that we have now, that we work with now, are home educating collectives. So that these are parents whose children are not in the standard system schooling. Even in that case, I encourage them, and I think they see the value of working with all parents. So parents whose children are in a standard system school also want to be able to connect to a cooperative of people who respect education deeply. So we have to have cooperatives. This is why we use the term family-directed learning. Instead of home education, I'm replacing that term of home education with family-directed learning, because all families can rise up into family-directed learning, whether you have your children in a standard system school or whether you take them out fully.
And within that setting, are you helping children to take on GCSEs at any level?
Right. Well, this is the thing now. So over the years, we've developed a whole range of pedagogy, a whole range of curricula for teaching core ideas of math and science. You asked me a question earlier on about how to help people feel better with the mathematics. So from a classical African point of view, from an African place of being, there are three reference points, three things to know that in knowing these things is the foundation to the math. Those three things are number, measure, and ratio. So the question is, what is number, what is measure, and what is ratio? And on a level, they can be simply expressed, but as you go more into the subject, you just have more advanced expressions of these same three things. We spoke about number earlier on, but I didn't just give our definition of that. Number, in a unified knowledge definition, a number is a tool of perception.
Of perception, you said?
Number is a tool of perception. Yes. Now, that definition is not a definition your child is going to get in a standard system school. But if they got it, and they got the reason around that, when they see number, or when they are given a number to use, they won't just think of it as just a random piece of information. They'll think of it as something that's trying to help them to come to know something, to help them come to see something, to hear it better, or to perceive it better, to come to know through their sense better.
So how long does it take to teach those three principles, number, ratio, and measure, to young people? Do you measure that, or is it something that grows holistically?
Those three things are a lifetime study. They can be taught to an early years child, even from pre-birth. The ideas of this can be taught by a parent from a pre-birth position. These things the idea of them can be explored through rhythm, through music, through movements, through certain lines of reflection, self-reflection. So I don't have a limit to when you start to do that, and there isn't an end to it. There's not a beginning point or an end point. It's an ongoing thing, but it's about the depth. And the pace of the depth that you go to is on the child and the family.
Mm-hmm.
If you have a situation where a family has embraced the principles of unified learning and has, for example, in maths, if the family is comfortable with exploring number, measure, and ratio, then their child is going to be far more comfortable exploring it. It will be just a natural thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
But we miss the opportunity. These things are all around, but we miss the opportunities, the learning opportunities that are just at hand.
Okay.
And then we send the child somewhere to force in an experience.
Do you think that
the
sometimes
experiences should happen in a certain dynamic moment?
Uh-huh. Do you feel that sometimes you approach and the parents that come across try to understand your approach to learning, comparing it to what the children receive at school? In the sense of they might want to measure what success or academic success looks like based on the way in which academic progress is measured in schools.
No, I don't. I wish even that would be to me that would be a progressive position. What I experience more is that people are not thinking on that depth at all. Generally speaking, okay. They're not comparing or checking this method of teaching and this method of learning to understand the system.
All right, so they're looking for an alternative.
Our trust is introduce a course to introduce the pedagogy, to introduce the method of teaching. Uh-huh. And when you learn that, then you can think about the school system in a better way. Okay. There are, for example, we have a model for what we call the which is practice level. And the practice levels are a very simple way for a child and a parent to know how they're doing in any given subject. Mm-hmm. Most children don't have a clear model of how to talk about how well they are doing in a subject. Uh-huh. So just to simply explain it, you have two dynamics. One is your consciousness of a thing, and the other is your competence in it. So you have a situation where you can be unconscious or conscious, and you have a situation where you can be competent or incompetent. And those four factors combine to give you various practice levels. Mm-hmm. Obviously, ultimately, you want to be, super conscious and competent. But there's a place where most learners begin where they're unconscious and incompetent. And you have to be able to know that you're in that position so that you can come out of it to becoming to the place where you are perhaps gaining competence and gaining consciousness, maybe not quite there, to a point where you're competent and conscious, which is the basic soundness, to an advanced place where you're super conscious.
And how often...
Sorry, go on.
Sorry, and how often do you actually gather with the parents? Is it something that they can actually go on and do at home, or do they have to be in your presence? Do you put together workshops or regular classes?
Our model involves the parents knowing the pedagogy so that they can do that at home, so that when we're working with children and families in a space, the things that we're doing there, they can continue that learning at home comfortably and develop their own thing, to harness the live experience. By having a pedagogy, you're able to pick up learning opportunities in a better way. So definitely it's about doing it at home. By doing the pedagogy, for example, by parents doing a course alongside the children, then we can have conversations with the parents about what's happening with the children and support them from that point of view as well. So you're speaking about the learning process, but you've got a live example with yourselves, and then you've got things you're working towards. The parents can get an understanding before you get to certain subjects so that they can support the journey into the thing. That to me is the way of making sure that every child can do for example, we've got in our new prospectus, our new project, level 9 being GCSE maths project, the You Learn Naturally GCSE maths project. our proposition is that a child from 7 years old can do an intensive 2-year program. Essentially, it's a 4-day week schooling focused around math as the subject, but connected to all the other aspects of the sciences and other cultural elements, artistic elements, and have the competence in 2 years to pass that test.
Oh, right.
So a child of 7, when they get to 9, could have the competence and consciousness to pass the GCSE maths.
All right.
And that's not about exceptional children. That's not about my child is gifted with number. That's about a process of reorientating ourselves to what the learning is about.
So by the end of those 2 years, the child will be competent not only with number, but also with letters, then, with reading and writing, then?
Absolutely.
All right.
Absolutely. For example, in our system, we use the Ethiopian syllabary. The Ethiopian language system, is built on a set of, for just common sense, let's say letters. They call them syllabary. So you have 33 main units of sound and vowel orders to each one. It's a palette of sound. That palette of sound has a broader range than your standard ABC. So we introduce that. We introduce with that signing, hand signing, so you can then have non-verbal communication. You can do arithmetic through non-verbal communication, which then puts you into a different kind of relationship to number. That means you can express a number with your hand, so you embody it. You can do arithmetic embodied. And those things are helpful. Sometimes it's helpful to hold the number, but you can't do that if you don't know how to do sign.
Okay.
We've expanded our idea of unified knowledge language, so it incorporates music, it incorporates signing, it incorporates script from an classic African reference point, and more.
All right.
And those things, that in itself, just the language, unified knowledge language, is one of 10 principles, processes, and protocols of our pedagogy. There's 9 other sort of key things that a parent should get to know about in order to work the pedagogy.
And for those parents that might be listening, what are the success stories or your success rate in terms of this approach to learning?
Well, the best thing for a parent to do to get an idea of our success is to listen to the testimonials. So we have a whole range of testimonials from parents to teachers talking about their experience of learning in this way or witnessing the process of this working out. A good example in terms of early years, there's one testimonial where you hear there's a mother speaking with their 4-year-old child. The 4-year-old child is speaking about transformations, which is a GCSE math subject involving rotation, reflection, enlargement, and translation. And each one of those 4, they have some principles to how they work. For you to know how rotation works, there's certain things you need to know. For you to know about enlargement, there's certain things you need to know. But this 4-year-old has done the unified knowledge learning when he was 4, and he's speaking with his mother through those principles. He's 4. So, and I'm talking about 7 to 9. So that's an example. When you see that, when you see it, when you experience it, then you'll know for yourself that there's a better way to do this. But there's lots of examples like this. Lots of children speaking, lots of parents speaking, lots of teachers speaking. That's the best way for me to say, get the evidence. But the thing to do is to check the websites.
What's the website?
I'm going to give the contact details later, but just to say, You Learn Naturally, letter U, learnnaturally.org, and abundancecenter.org, abundancecenter.org.
Okay.
Those websites will have information and links that go into more detail of this.
Okay. And just to finalize, I would like to find out, what does a home directed learning house bedroom should look like in order to be consistent with your approach to learning?
Family directed learning. You're asking me, what does the room of a person who's doing family directed learning look like?
Because sometimes I find as a teacher that many parents that I come across, they do the talk, but then you don't know but then you see something different in the way children behave, and also you don't know what is happening. Not that you should, but sometimes you wonder whether what they tell you is what they do. So I just, for the purpose of people that might not, that are not, that don't see a relationship between the way I behave as a parent with the way my child behaves in school, I think would be a good insight into show them how does that project, how your learning approaches also project into their home, and how that home also projects into the communities, or actually the families that come across, that you come across.
Okay, well, let me put it in another way. I hear what you're asking me, and I don't know if I would speak to how someone's room should look specifically like that. But I would say this: one of the principles that we work on is a knowledge of space. What is space? We call it Zat, and the basic idea is that space has factors of land, air, and mind. So your land is a physical space, the air is the atmosphere, and mind is the mentality. So in any space, your room space or any other space, these things are reflected. They're reflected on how you are. And to keep those things clear, to keep quality flow in those spaces so that it's air to move through it, so that it's clean, these things this is healthy. I mean, that's a basic kind of idea. I think the point you're trying to get to, though, I agree. We parents, we have the greatest influence. That's what we say, primary educator. We have the greatest influence on our children. And if we are not confident in something or expressing something in a funny way or an insecure way, it's likely that the children can pick that up. That's why we do the foundation course, to help the parents feel more power to own family-directed learning. We're doing, I think, before we summarize, although there's a lot that I could say about the GCSE subjects specific and the reforms, if you had time for that, I would do that.
Yeah, we have time, because I'm not sure if you heard that there's been a mistake in the English papers on behalf of I think it's the AQA examination board, and obviously those things that are stressing students right now as we speak.
Well, yeah, let me come to that point about the papers and the system of getting your accreditation. But what I wanted to mention is that we have a summer school coming up, part of our Black Open University. Black Open University, if you look on Facebook, you'll find this, and if you go to blackopenuniversity.eu, then you'll come to our e-learning space. You can see some of the courses we do as e-learning courses. So we have a summer school coming up. This will be based in Tottenham at the Chestnut Community Centre. And over the 6 weeks, there'll be a whole range of programs for children and for parents and for adults interested in as educationalists, a whole range of things that they can get involved in. So this is definitely something to have a look at, the Black Open University Summer School 2017. Okay. Yeah.
All right. Now, I'll share that on my different pages on Pile Driver Radio, and also on Extraordinary Parenting on Facebook, and Extraordinary Parenting Show as well, definitely.
Okay, great. Thank you. So when you're speaking about the accreditation, I have a concern about the whole reform. The maths subject in 2015, and just before it, in fact, they had a process of reforming the subjects. And particularly with the maths, they reformed the mathematics, GCSE mathematics, and changed the scoring, which you mentioned earlier on. So where most adults will think of, A as the high grade and, F as a low grade and ungraded, and those kind of, that scale, A, B, C is the grading. But now the grading is based on a 1 to 9, where 9 is the top level. This is why our project is called Level Being 9. Now, the issue is that before they even made that change, they have the population accepting a 2-tier system, whereby children are given a tier that they sit in, and they cannot get a higher grade.
All right.
They cannot get a higher score than a certain point of reference.
Okay.
This is a problem. This is a profound problem. So what that means is that the scoring goes from 1
to 9, isn't it?
Yeah, it goes from 1 to 9.
Yeah, 1 being the
Scoring
lowest.
for the lower tier is from 1 to 5.
All right.
Scoring for the higher tier is from 4 to 9.
Uh-huh.
And most of our community, in terms of African children, black community children, many of our children may be entered into the lower tier.
Okay.
Now, that means that they cannot score at level 9.
Okay.
Now, if you have a learner cooperative, you can organize to your children into assessments directly. We are organizing that so that we have a direct relationship to the accrediting bodies, so that when we assess the children, we determine whether they go to what standard. We're not going to tier the children. We're not going to put them into tiers where a child can never achieve level 9.
So it's like restricting children, isn't it? It's like restricting children's potential, because you never know how that child could perform on the exam. So you are assuming that child is not going to score more than this amount.
Absolutely. You're capping them. What that model does is cap them, because when a child goes into secondary school, generally they start to put them in the tier right from the beginning of secondary school.
Yeah.
So they're going to go through all of their secondary schooling knowing that they can never achieve level 9.
Yeah.
But when they have to leave school, the best jobs will be for level 9 students.
Yeah, the STEM jobs
this
especially.
This is the difference between the culture here and the culture in China, or even in the Caribbean and some parts of the continent, where the school and the community don't let the children fall out. Even if they try to stay longer in a system, they won't let them.
But that's something that happens
out.
here. Here, you don't allow children to maybe remain 1 year, do 1 year more, just in case. In Spain, for instance, at primary level, if the child is not performing accordingly, they will keep that child in that year group for another year. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't seem to be much of an issue. But here, I find that the system really wants to rush children as quickly as possible. And if that makes them look bad in terms of Ofsted reports and even league tables, so they had to come across with an idea like what you mentioned just now. Mm-hmm. Which is horrendous, which is really, because I was reading recently as well that the GCSE grade will determine whether you can go the A level that you're going to take as well. And also your career as well. So they can actually tell you that at 15, you cannot become a doctor.
Let me tell you, I'm realizing that I am in a space where I have a certain constraint on my time in this space. So let me just summarize some things about the GCSE maths, the reform.
Okay.
They have made the GCSE maths twice the size of other GCSEs. Uh-huh. They estimate that it needs 20% more teaching time than it used to have. But most schools don't have 20% more time to give it. So a parent should find out how their school is coping with that and what that means for their child. Mm-hmm. They're double weighting the performance of the mathematics. So the school its assessment by Ofsted and other assessing agencies, the mathematics carries a lot of weight in it. So that's why when they tier the children, they don't want to have a child give them full range of potential, because then they may score badly and it will score the school badly. Okay. These are serious concerns. Mm-hmm.
So it's basically a business of looking good and looking bad. And even I was just reading this the article on this accident on the GCSE exam era board or whatever, and they were saying that the schools are paying these examination boards a lot of money to deliver these exams and also to mark them as well. So I see there is a business in itself.
Yes. It's a business that does not have the family's interest at heart or the child's interest at heart. It's a business that has become self-centered to the entity of the school. And that's a problem. But this is why you need learner cooperatives. You need independent learning. You need family-directed learning. And these are the approaches that will give a alternative. And I think then standard system schools would respect children more if they knew that the parents had the power to do it themselves.
Yeah, and also I think that will improve children's behavior as well. Because I remember that where I came from, we had more power to say over what we wanted, and our parents weren't that much involved in our education in the first place, because we were accountable and responsible at a very young age about what we wanted to do as well. And here, that power has been taken away from the children completely, and I believe that that's the reason many children are so disaffected and so depressed and unsatisfied with the school system and its overall.
Well, we've accepted second standard,
Yeah.
and anyone who really can have time, a little peace of mind to think through that, will not be able to accept that. Second standard as a default, that you are a second standard citizen, and your children should be nurtured in a second standard way.
Yeah.
This is it's obviously unacceptable if you think about it.
Yeah,
And
I really agree.
issue,
100%,
I think most parents would say that's obvious, but we've been challenged to find a new solution. So what I'm putting forward in terms of our work, the work of our trust, is a solution. It involves learner cooperatives. That's parents coming together around the education. It involves an alternate pedagogy. That's unified knowledge, which is cross-curricular and nature-centered. So there are solutions. And I would say to ones, explore our Black Open University, the summer school project. That will give you a very quick taste of what we're talking about. And yeah, this is a way to know a better thing.
Yeah, but people are also aware that it's a Black organization. Can people from other communities and cultures also subscribe to your learning approaches? Yes. Okay. Yeah.
I put that question is interesting to me. I know some people may think, oh well, how can that be? But if I were Chinese offering a Chinese cultural arts, it would be completely reasonable for any culture to come and do my Chinese cultural arts. No one would question that. No one would say to me, why don't you just give that to Chinese people?
Okay.
So it's like this. The point is to keep that the fact that it's an African-centered pedagogy is a fundamental point, and it's kept as an integral. That's it. Yeah. And there's a value for that. Yeah, people should learn the value of that.
But would you also agree that within the community, within the Black community, you have parents in our community that don't believe in Afrocentric approach, African-centered approach to learning? Do you acknowledge that as well?
Say that again?
But would you acknowledge that there are parents in the Black community, people of African descent, that don't see or appreciate or don't see the value in the African-centered approach, and they're pretty much happy as long as their children succeed within the mainstream schools?
Yes, I recognize that. That is only because we've never had it structured in a way that you can define it properly. That's what Unified Knowledge does. It defines the pedagogy in a clear way that no one who has learnt the pedagogy can say that it's not something we're supposed to deal with or that it's not respectable. And I have not met anyone who can tell me that it's not better than the standard system approach. So it's a matter of ignorance on that side. No disrespect, but that's what we're talking about. Knowing when you're unconscious and incompetent.
Yeah,
we have to know when we don't know something. We have to know we don't know that thing.
Yeah,
and we know it. And one, we have to know we don't know, and two, we have to have the determination to improve our knowing. Those things have to kick in.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So finally, where can people contact you? I would love to talk to you more and more about this, because I think that's a different topic as well. The African Centered approach to learning is a different topic, and I think it's important and it's something that I would like to explore more. So I will invite you back into the show very soon. Where can people contact you? And finally, also, can you give the details to about your program?
Okay. So let me give the website again, abundancecenter.org.
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 Yep.
And You Learn Naturally.
You Learn Naturally.
YouLearnNaturally.org.
All one word, yeah?
All one word. Letter U.
Yeah.
Letter U, LearnNaturally.org.
.org, yeah.
Those are the two main websites. The YouLearnNaturally.org is a good site to explore because it connects to what we term homeschool knowledge exchange. So the work of our trust is to build a kind of resource around the family, to build a resource around the approach to learning. And that involves, for example, radio, You Learn Naturally Radio, which is a new radio service we've developed, and other dimensions to it.
Okay.
So, yeah, You Learn Naturally is a good one to connect to. And when you look at those things, you'll see links to, for example, the level being 9. You'll see links to that. There's information to download. There's links to the Open University summer school program and other aspects like this.
All right.
Those are the best ways. I'll give a number as well. So if you call on 020-8144-1720.
Okay. All right.
And I'll give my mobile, my direct line for ones who need that.
Okay.
075
Yeah.
3003 8547.
Okay, then. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
No problem. Yeah. No problem. It's been a pleasure, Rijole, and I commend you on your work, your excellent show. These are critical things you're dealing with, critical issues.
Thank you very much.
I keep up the good work, and yeah, more power.
Thank you very much. Have a lovely Sunday.
You too. Thank you. And just to say, I did greet you with Heshima. Maybe people don't know. Heshima is a Swahili word. It's derived from the Swahili for Heshima, and this means respect. So, Heshima to you, Rijole, and respect to all community. Heshima.
Heshima. Thank you very much for calling.
Thank you.
This is Piledriver Radio, smashing the hits and good vibrations. Just listen and spread the word.
Good afternoon. That was Astehmari Batekun from YouLearnNaturally.com from Unified Schools of Learning. He spoke about his approach to learning. And if you want to find out more, just follow him on Facebook and search for YouLearnNaturally.org. And we're going to carry on with the show.